Hi, I'm Noel New, the songwriting therapist, and I want to talk with you about receiving and taking. Normally, when you hear the word receiving, the other word is giving and receiving, right? But for the purposes of this discussion, really giving will actually come up because it's really the key is how we give. The key of how we give is, are we open to receiving? And once we're open to receiving, we will give more clearly, more abundantly, more effectively. When we are not in receiving, when we won't allow ourselves to receive, that could be compliments, it could be people wanting to help us, whatever the case may be, if just people telling us they love us. If we're not able to take that in and receive that, well, I just use the word take. Eventually, we're going to take it. We're going to take it somewhere because we're going to be out of alignment. We're going to be in deficit, impoverished. And so we're going to try to survive and we're going to take it. Thus, when we give, there'll be a take involved. And this is kind of the heart of codependency. The codependent person gives constantly of themselves, but is trying to take something back and thus is always not happy, miserable because they're not getting it back because they're not receiving. They're not allowing themselves to receive, and thus they're usually with somebody who is not really a giver, is just somebody who takes. So there's a deficit in that, that whole development of personality that creates relationships. So some wordplay here. Receiving, receipt, right? Usually when we buy something, we're given a receipt. And that receipt is that documentation that you've received what you bought, whether it's a service or an item or things like that. So we have a receipt, which is the documentation that we received. Well, giving, another word for that is a gift. We gift something. And so when we give, it's natural for the other person to receive. Just like you give and you receive. Give and receive. You give a gift, you get a gift receipt. You know what I mean? That's how that works. Now, if there's no receiving, and if we weren't taught this in our families, if our parents didn't do it, it's not something you teach overtly, it's more, or directly, it's more indirectly. You know what I mean? It's just more how the family dynamic is. Then nobody's receiving, everybody's just trying to give. Well, you're going to have at least one taker, or people are going to become takers. So I'm going to give this little story. It just came to me, this little anecdote I just had with discussion with my mom. So when I was a kid, like 7, 8 years old, 9 years old, my mom, who worked 70 hours a week and, was just me and her raising me, would come home. I was a latchkey kid. I was by myself, but she'd come home. Let's go to dinner. We'd go with the neighbor. There's a neighbor across the street. And the daughter was 1 year older than me. And so I was 7 or 8. She was 9 or 10. And her mom. And so the two moms and the two kids would go out to dinner, And this was in the 70s, late 70s. So we'd go out to dinner and we'd go to different places. And almost every time, my mom and the neighbor lady, her mom, a wonderful lady, by the way, tremendous, beautiful human being, would argue about who's going to pay the bill. Just fight over it, literally, like kind of nasty, like, I'm paying it, no, I'm paying it, I'm paying it, I'm paying it. Now, the sense of that is they're trying to, take care of the other person. They're trying to show the other person that they care so that they want to pay for them. Is nothing ill will or ill-spirited. It's of a good-hearted nature. Well, I saw this and it didn't make sense to me as a child because nobody's happy. There is no sense of gratitude that the other person paid. It feels like they lost the fight. You know what I mean? And the one who wins isn't like, you're just like, I get to, It was like, it was so bizarre to me. And I told this to my mom recently. She didn't conceptualize it as well. But I was like, at that moment, I decided that when I want to give to somebody, I will offer. And it's a true offer. I will offer. So let's just keep it in the realm of paying for the meal, right? I will offer, yeah, it's on me. If they say no, it's on me. I will say, no, really, it's on me. If they say no again, I'm like, here's the bill. Because the reality is that I'm not going to fight. And thank you. Thank you very much. Receive. You know what I mean? Receive that. And if I'm with somebody who's always doing that, well, more than likely, they're going to get resentful because I'm not fighting with them long enough, whatever that case may be. It doesn't matter. I don't even want to put a judgment on that. I just know that this is comfortable for me. When I offer, I want to do it, goodness of my heart. If you will not allow me to, if you will not receive that, then I'll let you do it and I will receive it with gratitude. And by the way, that's all receiving is. The receiving with gratitude. Thank you. Thank you for what you've given me. That's the receipt. You know what I mean? Thank you for that compliment. Whether I believe it or not, doesn't matter. Receive it. Thank you. More than likely, that person gives you a compliment from their heart to yours. And by the way, we know when we're getting worked or manipulated, and you can still thank for that too. But, that's when somebody's just buttering up. But when people genuinely give a compliment, receive. Even if you don't agree, don't like, I don't think that's true, receive it. That way, they are also giving the gift of giving, the compliment. So this is a really thing that's established my whole life, and I still totally didn't get it. You know what I mean? As a kid, I just was like, I don't want to be fighting over something where I'm calling it a good thing, and it didn't make sense to me. And so over the years, I've done that and felt that somebody eventually didn't think I was giving mine own too, but that's because they weren't receiving when I was offering. And so that's for them. Now they have taken something, a resentment, and that's not mine. But what I can offer is empathy for where they're at, or compassion, Empathy is I could feel where they're at. Compassion is I get where they're at in the sense of, I'm not there, but they are, and I totally get that. And so receiving and giving is so simple, it's just not easy. And when we're not taught to truly receive, our giving is going to be fraught with trying to take something back. And then we will have what's called guilt. And this incessant guilt, when it's not anything we're doing wrong except we're not receiving. And so we feel guilty that we're taking, even though we don't understand that we're taking. Because we're just trying to get what we can get out of the relationship. Whatever it could be, communication in it, connection, affection, I talked about it in another talk, support, and how we're supporting one another. So really critical to be able to receive. And this is something you can practice. As soon as somebody gives you something, whether it's the smallest thing, maybe it's just, attention, on a subway or a bus, hey, how are you? Thank you, I'm doing well. How are you? Even if it's like, never see the person ever again, that gift you've just given by receiving that, and they are able to acknowledge their gift is received, now they feel connected, and they just go about their day. Maybe never see you, it doesn't matter. Like that's on the most basic level. But they, it's this human connection which we're losing through our divisiveness and anger and hatred and protectionism and, even progressivism. It's just, we all can have our points of view. Let's give and receive the connection of love, the open-hearted connection with ourselves and each other, and really make our lives just that much better, which changes the world, which makes this world a better place to live. With all the conjecture or not, it's just the truth. When we make our lives this much better, one moment at a time, one day at a time, by receiving and acknowledging connection and being grateful for it, and then giving that from that open-heartedness, and then having that person receive it back. This place is really a good place to be, a good place to live in, and a good time to be alive. So practice that. I will right now and today, furthermore, and hope you as well too, to give and more importantly receive.